and ready to go. Oh, Women in Language 2019 has well and truly started when we get to meet our first speaker. And our first speaker of the day is Jess Brown. Hey, Jess.
Hello. How are you doing?
Hello. So, chat, tell us that you can see us, please. Tell us that you can see Jess. Ooh, got a lot of excitement. And let's see if we've got we've got Andy joining from, I think he's in Oregon. So he's in the West Coast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You have a global audience, I swear. Where are you, Jess?
That's amazing. I'm in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Hey, so from Edinburgh to Canterbury, where I am, I guess, to Oregon, to wherever else are. Oh, Brenna's still awake, and I think, Brenna, you are in Australia. So,
oh my
okay,
goodness.
we've gone global. We've gone global. I don't know what time it's there. It is...
It's like 13 hours or something.
It's like 4 a.m. or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you about Jess. Jess Brown connects Japanese language lovers and native speakers in an offline and an online community. So we got both types. And she lives in Edinburgh, Scotland, like she said, but she makes sure she speaks Japanese every day. And Jess, do you know, you taught me my first ever Japanese, and I am remembering it still.
Oh.
So you did an amazing job, because I can still say Doso yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Oh, amazing! That's fantastic. That's right. My job's done. I can go home now.
You did really, really well. So Jess has everything on offer for people who want to learn Japanese: 6-week course, monthly membership, weekend immersions, bootcamp retreats, and all of those are opportunities to connect with other Japanese speakers. But as far as I'm aware, this wasn't your original intention, and that's what you're going to tell us about.
Exactly. It was a complete accident.
Well, I'm going to hand over to you then. Crack on. And chat room, you're on fire. So chat room, I'm going to be joining you on the floor and taking your questions. If you have any questions for Jess, just maybe tag me in them just to make sure I see them. So you just go at Fluent Kirsten, I think I am, or you could just type your questions. I'll take them, and then at the end of Jess's talk, we'll have a little bit of time for her to answer your questions. I'm going to hand over to Jess, make sure you can tell me you can see her, etc., and I'm going to come off camera.
Okay. So let's see if I can get this working all right. Okay, let's go right back to the beginning. Can everybody see that? My opening slide.
Just waiting for some feedback from the chatters. Okay, there's a yes, there's a yes, there's a yes, there's a yes.
Oh,
everybody's a
great.
yes.
Hooray!
Yay, hooray.
Phew, thank goodness for that. Okay, so as you said, I'm Jess. I try to speak Japanese every single day, even though I live in Scotland. And I think that surprises people, because first of all, they think, well, why would you do that? And then they probably think, well, how do you do that? So first of all, I'm going to tell you how I ended up speaking Japanese, because it's a bit of a crazy question, a bit of a crazy story. How I built a community of Japanese speakers, and then how I made it my job, because it wasn't my job. First of all, though, I do want to know about you guys, everybody watching. What about you? I have put in the notebook some questions for you. Why do I want to learn this language is a very, very important question for you to ask yourselves. So either jot some things down very quickly now, or wait till the end. Hopefully during my talk, I will give you a little bit of inspiration to help answer these questions. But these are very important things to think about, and when it comes to language, for keeping motivation. So just the first question, why do I want to learn this language? Just have a little think about that very quickly. I'll just give you a few seconds. Maybe jot down a couple of notes, because I'm sure you all have a notepad with you. Or pop it in the chat.
Yeah, if you in the chat have a very specific reason, you can type it in, and then I'll collect those, and we'll have a little chat about them later. So say, why do you want to learn your target language? Jess, if you want to hit just present, or actually go to the bottom left and see if you can go full screen if you're feeling excitable. that little photo frame thingy there, that'll do it.
Oh, is it not full screen? Oh,
ooh la la.
Thank you very much.
Oh, quelle jolie. Okay.
Exciting. So actually, I would like to hear, what are people written in the chat? Is anyone writing in there why they want to learn their particular language?
Whoops, sorry, that was me. No, at the moment we have a lot of people talking about Gran Canaria.
Okay.
Jessica Sunnyside says, because it makes me feel adventurous. Elizabeth says she's learning French, says we visit France often. Spanish, because we've got a large Spanish-speaking community here. Lindsay's learning Guarani because she wants to go back to Paraguay because it's basically the most underrated place ever. Brenda's learning heritage languages. We've got Hannah who's doing Vietnamese because she wants to talk to locals when she's going to the country. Okay. And Cameron is learning Japanese because he is going to the Olympics next year.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
There's lots more that it's fantastic to read everybody's reasons here.
Yeah. No, hold on to these reasons because this is what keeps you going. Okay. So I believe that life confidence comes through language confidence. And the reason I believe this is because of what happened to me. I got so much confidence through learning Japanese. It's confidence that just wasn't there before. When I was just an English speaker, I had no idea how amazing it would feel to have another language. And I know I'm probably speaking to the converted. A lot of you are polyglots. Which unfortunately I'm not yet, but who knows. But I definitely feel a lot more confident having more than one language under my belt. Right, so the accidental language, how did it happen? I was going to become a primary school teacher, and I decided that I would like to go and teach English abroad as well. So I went to a TEFL course. It was just for a weekend, and we were given an introduction sheet to tell people what languages we knew. Now, I felt very uncomfortable filling in this sheet because it asked me what experience I had of language. And I had had a horrible experience of learning French at school. When I say horrible, I mean absolutely horrific. It had really ruined my confidence. It had absolutely, I believed I was not a good language learner. I had actually been stopped from trying any other languages because of how terrible, inverted commas, I was as a French learner. So I pretty much written myself off as a language learner. So I filled in this sheet and just said a tiny bit of French, even though I did 6 years. When I got to the TEFL course, the teacher said to us, you're probably wondering how you're going to teach English to people that don't speak English, only using English. To which, of course, we were all nodding, well, yes, how does that work? So she said, I've looked at all your introduction sheets and I can see that none of you know one particular language that I know. So we're thinking, okay. And she said, so what I'm going to do is for 30 minutes, I'm going to teach you that language, but I'm only going to use that language when I teach you that language. So we're all sitting there thinking, well, okay, what's the language going to be? And then she told us, what language do you think it was? It was Japanese. So straight away, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be so humiliating. I am terrible at learning languages. I am not going to be able to do any of this. After 30 minutes, I was able to introduce myself. I could count to 99 and I was gobsmacked. She had basically gone around the room and had us speak. We didn't write anything down. We didn't read anything off the board. She just told us a word, told us to repeat it to the other person, but did it in Japanese. So she would use a lot of body language, She used a lot of facial expressions, and she passed the language from one of us to the next, and we needed to pass the language from one person to the next until everybody in the room was repeating backwards and forwards. And that was a self-introduction in Japanese. She then used her body to demonstrate how to remember numbers and helped us by, obviously, numbers are easier because you can use your hands. I believe she may have written the numbers on the board as well to help us with, going all the way up to 99 to explain how it worked. But it basically just blew my mind. All of a sudden, this language was in my life. But I was in the middle of a university degree and I didn't have time to learn it. So I thought that was a great experience. One day I'll pick that up. And I went off on my way.
Hey, Jess.
Yes.
Close your presenter slides.
Oh, right, sorry.
It's all right.
Yes.
There's a lot of people relating to your experiences and
really
impressed. Yeah. So overall, you're doing awesome. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's all right. I would love actually to hear.
Oh, okay, right. So if you
the
say,
chat.
oh yeah, we can see ourselves now on Jess's screen, our own chat room.
Sorry.
Yeah, you got to remember you're sharing your screen. This is how we roll over here. Okay, so we've got a lot of people, and there's an interesting discussion going on about whether polyglots, certain polyglots who were good at language in school, and so people who weren't, which I guess that's just humans. But a lot of people saying whether they loved their classes or didn't love their classes. And Hannah is incredibly impressed with the result of your Japanese lesson and how much you were able to acquire in just a very, very short period of time.
It was an incredible experience. And I'd never been taught in such a way before. So I really took on board the way that she'd done that. And I thought that was really cool. And in the future, when I am teaching English, that's the way I'm going to do it. So then I kind of put Japanese away because, I had to finish my degree. But Japanese just kept popping up. My university had a partnership with a university in Japan. So there were Japanese students walking around the campus all the time. And one of them just happened to move next door to where I was living. And I was actually working as a senior student. So I got, my accommodation was discounted so that then I would look after freshers. And one day somebody came to my door, a small Asian lady came knocking on my door. And she said that she had a problem with her key. It wasn't working and would I help her? So I went round to her house and we tried the key and we managed to get into her room and it was all fine. And then we just, introduced ourselves to each other and she told me that she was Tomomi from Japan. So, of course, I thought, hajime mashite, which means nice to meet you. Jess desu. I'm Jess. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. It's very nice to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you. She went crazy. She was so excited. She was like, oh my goodness, you speak Japanese with us. And I had to calm her down. No, that's all I know. I just had this very basic class. Now, what was incredible to me after I left Tomomi was I walked away and realized I remembered that. How did I remember that Japanese, having only had that one session? But again, I thought, okay, I don't have time to study Japanese. That was a cool experience. She was really enthusiastic, but I'm actually going to go now and go back to my degree. I'm going to be a primary school teacher and then I'm going to go to Japan and teach English. So the next thing that happened was I started working in a Chinese restaurant because, a student needs money. And I was behind the bar making the drinks and the waitresses would go to the tables, take the drinks order, bring it to me. Now, all of the waitresses were Chinese. Also, I thought one of them didn't actually spend much time speaking to the others. So one day I kind of got chatting to her, just tried to get her in conversation. And she told me that she was actually from Japan. So, of course, I said, hajime mashite. Nice to meet you. Jess desu. I'm Jess. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. I look forward to getting to know you. yada, yada. Of course, she reacted with, oh my goodness, you speak Japanese. That's amazing. Oh. And of course, then I was saying, no, that's all I know. That's all I know. That's it. And then, but every time I went to work at the Chinese restaurant, she was there and she would then teach me more Japanese words. She would just say, oh, do you know what this is in Japanese? Oh, do you know what this is in Japanese? And suddenly I was learning without meaning to learn. Again, I didn't spend any time on it outside of work. I just had to concentrate on my degree. Then one day I was in the library at university, which wasn't very common, I have to admit. I used to take the books out and go away. I never used to sit in the library for very long. But one of my old school friends arrived in the library. And of course, I was really excited to see her because it had been a few years. And I said to her, what are you doing here? She said, oh, I'm doing a presentation. You should come. It's at lunchtime. So I said, okay. So I went to this presentation, and the presentation was for the JET program. Now, if people don't know about the JET program, it's the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. And the Japanese government pays for you to go to Japan and teach in schools, within councils and communities, prefectures, things like that. So the public education system. So yet again, Japan had suddenly forced itself upon me, if you like. I suddenly had another Japanese experience. So I went to watch her presentation, and it was basically, go to work in Japan. They will pay for your flights to get there. They will pay you a wage whilst you're there. It's more than you're going to earn as a new graduate. There was absolutely no reason not to do it. So I thought, okay, that's it. I give up. Japan, you've got me. Japanese language, you've got me. I'm going to continue to learn the language because I'm going to teach English in Japan. So that was how I started my adventure to Japan. I got on the JET program, and I arrived in Japan with knowledge of introducing myself and the very basic alphabets of hiragana, katakana, and not even kanji. I don't think I had any kanji at that point. Now, I knew I was going to need as much language opportunity as possible, but there were plenty of excuses. I would stop myself from speaking Japanese because I would think, I'm there to teach English. I should really just speak to people in English. I'm only here to help people with their English. Oh, my Japanese friends that I've made, they don't want me to practice my bad Japanese on them. Oh, I'm not sure that I sound very good, so I'm going to wait until I sound a bit better. Or I don't know enough words. I'm going to wait until I know more vocabulary. These were all my excuses. These were the things that stopped me from speaking. I spent the whole of my first year introducing myself, and that was it, because I was too scared. I'm just wondering if anyone else in the comments, in the chat, is connecting with this at all.
Yeah, you can, if you want, you can come off screen sharing in a second, or we'll have a little chat.
Sure.
Yeah. We've got one person in the chat who's very keen to see your lovely face as well.
Oh, really?
Just like, I want to see Jess. And I'm like, I'm sorry, the tech. Oh, well. So here we go. This is Jess.
Hey. Sorry, I'm not used to all the tech.
No, it's, yeah, you can come in and out as many times as you wish, and we'll be here to support you. And yes, we've got lots of people. Sarah saying it's really intimidating to start speaking in your chosen language. Eleanor says, yes, and I was in Japan to actually learn Japanese. And we've got, Abilu saying, sounds exactly like me during my first year in China. Mirat saying, that's me when I went to Germany. Jan says, I absolutely understand waiting till you're good enough. She says she's waiting in several of her languages are doing gubod, botin aros, and a gomraik, and you probably don't have to, Jan. She's a fellow Welsh learner.
Don't wait, just speak. Don't wait.
Just speak. So yes, no, very, very common. A lot of people. And also when you don't understand the native speakers and just that general panic. It's a thing. And then somebody's commenting in, I can't read other scripts in a different script that Kirsten can't read. But so yeah, lots of people saying in Romania, Elfin did it in Romania. So happens to all of us, happens to the best of us. I swear it even happens to me. And I just, you might have noticed, I just talk all the time anyway.
Yes. Well, you need to just speak. You just need to speak. And it's intimidating and it's scary, but there's, that's where you see the progress, is when you actually put yourself on the outside of your comfort zone.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So the Japanese said always. That's what that was meant to say. So I am sorry.
Itsumo.
That's my limitation.
Did you put itsumo, that person? Right. Well, there's the excuses for you. Okay. So when I was in Japan, I decided, okay, in order to speak, I am going to go to Japanese lessons. I also happened to start going to karate. I started playing Japanese drums, taiko. I loved karaoke, and I did a little bit of Aikido. But basically, I kept going to Japanese lessons. But what I found with the Japanese lessons is I would stop the teacher from going through the textbook. I would just try to engage the teacher in conversation all the time. Textbooks just didn't do anything for me. They gave me, the first sentence that I should be using, but then I would actually just ask the teacher to test me on that sentence, just get me saying that sentence. I just wanted to speak. I wanted to speak as much as possible. Now, because I was into all these sports and activities, I also managed to get very, very good at talking to people during these activities in Japanese. And I actually joined a Japanese drama group because I knew that I would get more opportunities to learn the language, pick up body language from watching my fellow drama participants speaking. And it just felt more real. For me, the language had to be real. And textbooks just didn't do it for me at all. So when I finished my time in Japan, I decided to go back to the UK. But I was terrified that I was going to lose the language that I'd learnt. I had, during my time in Japan, I was there for 5 years, and I'd lived for nearly 4 months with a Japanese taiko group, and I was the only non-Japanese there. So I'd spoken Japanese for 4 months immersively and picked up a lot more language. That to me meant that I needed to have that immersive experience. That was how I learned, that was how I retained, and just having textbooks for me wasn't enough. Just having listening practice for me wasn't enough. I needed to speak. So fear drove me to finding a community. I went to the JET Alumni Association, which is for the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program alumni, and they were running Japanese lessons. So I went to those lessons and I ended up organizing more of those lessons. And then I realized that I wasn't doing anything between the lessons. I would go and speak. So I'm going to take off sharing again because I want to do this face on. I would go and...
You're looking good.
Speak to the teacher. So I'd arrive at the lesson early and I would speak to the teacher. And before the other students arrived, I'd always get there earlier. I'd chat away in Japanese to her. Then she would do the lesson and she would usually use a lot of English in the lesson. And it was so frustrating to me because I felt that it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I wanted there to be more. There had to be more. I wanted to be completely immersed and not have the get out clause of English. So I said to the other people in the group, you know, let's meet halfway through the week and study the lessons together. So that's what we did. We started meeting halfway through the week. Then when we were there, they would be using mainly English and then talking about the textbooks. And I would say, you know what, let's not speak in English. Let's just speak in Japanese. Now, luckily, they were sorry, that's my cat. They're a similar level as me, so lower intermediate at the time. So we were able to have those very basic conversations. Now, my Japanese friends heard about this and they said, well, let's come along, let's help you out. And we were going to Starbucks and various pubs and things. And we decided, you know what, we will pay for their drinks because they are friends of ours. They're speaking to us only in Japanese the whole time we're together. We'll pay for their drinks and encourage them to come every week. So that kind of started our little community. And this is our community, Nihongo Scotland. As you can see, we have all ages coming to our group now. The lady in the bottom right-hand corner for me, I don't know if it's bottom right for you, she is in her 90s and she's a Japanese lady that lives in Scotland now. And opposite her is her daughter, who's half Japanese, and then her daughter. And we have people find us. We created a Facebook group because we kept moving where we were going. And so we created a Facebook group and put the event on Facebook. And that way people could find us. And then it grew. And we were having 30 people coming every week to chat in Japanese. So again, we suddenly had this accidental group happening. So from the Facebook group, people started contacting me abroad and asking how to join. Now, I kept saying to them, but we're in Scotland, when are you coming to Edinburgh? And they would say, I'm not. I live in Israel. I live in Sweden. I live in India. And it wasn't until one day someone said to me, look, can you just do an online version and then I can come to this? So I thought, right, okay, that's what I'll do. So I found a way to set up a group so we could meet online. And that's when Nihongo Connection was born. So I was spending all my time online, speaking to people in Japanese, running my group in Edinburgh, and also working at the Japanese consulate in Edinburgh. But more and more of my time was taken up working on the online platform. So that's when I decided to quit my job. And I quit my job April last year to start running the group. Now, this is where you can start running your group. All you need to create a community is a location, choose a day and a time, take pens and paper, take textbooks, and then you need a magic ingredient. If you want the magic ingredient, ask me in the comments, and then we'll talk about that when I finish this. So I went along every week with a big rucksack full of things for people to read, look at, use, in order to get them speaking. Now, what has happened is that as soon as they walk through the door, people speak only Japanese. It didn't work for me with this exchange. I went to a few groups where you would have English for Japanese. You know, you'd say, okay, you speak English and we'll speak Japanese for half and half. It didn't work. It would just default to English. So from the very beginning, I was very strict. I said, as soon as you walk through that door, it's going to be Japanese only. And Japanese teachers, thank you for being here. Thank you for speaking to us only in Japanese. For doing so, we will pay for your drinks for the entire time that you are here. And it works very well. We've been going since 2014. So, going back to the notebook questions. Why do you want to learn the language that you're learning? This is very important to keep motivated. For me, it was all about community. I wanted to speak. I want to communicate with people. I want to learn about people. I want to know what makes people tick. and I want to know regardless of whether they speak in English or in Japanese. What interests me that I can learn about in this language? Like in Japan, I really wanted to play drums, the Japanese drums. So I joined the drumming group and they spoke to me in Japanese. It was in Japan. There are taiko groups around the world now, and they are often run by people who've lived in Japan or people who speak Japanese. And so it's a fantastic way to get to chat in Japanese with other people as well. What games, activities can I use to help me speak this language? Now, for me, it had to be fun. So I was always taking things along to the group that interested me and shared them with the people in the community. And it's the same online. I will come with a conversation starter. I'll come with some focus language for us to work with. There has to be some motivation, there has to be some fun aspect. And as I said before, for me, textbooks didn't give that to me. I needed it to be more 3, maybe 4-dimensional. And how can I make the language part of my identity? So I don't think of Japanese as a subject that I study. Japanese is part of who I am. I speak Japanese. That is part of my life. It's just what I do on a daily basis. I message people in Japanese. I meet people in Edinburgh that are in my group, and when we meet for lunch, even if it's not with the group, we only speak to each other in Japanese. You know, it's just what I do, and you want to think of it in that way as well. You know, a way that you can make this just something that you do. It doesn't have to be something. It shouldn't be something that you need to make time for. It shouldn't be something that you need to sit down and do. You know, if it's part of you, it's more natural. It just happens naturally. Okay, so I'm coming back in. I'm back, and it's getting darker. So that is the end of my presentation, official presentation. So I would actually really like to hear from everyone else now. What kind of questions and what kind of topics have come up in the chat?
Hey, Jess. Oh, thank you so much. It was really fascinating, interesting to hear interesting to hear a different angle as well, from so much about what I know and feel about teaching. And our chat room had a lot of discussions around, there's a lot of feeling of textbooks and what people feel about textbooks. So chat room, I might be missing your questions now for a second while I talk to Jess, but I'll try and sort of, if you see me looking over here, it's because that's where you are, chat. Imagine yourself sort of sat next to me. And okay, so a lot of people asking, does Jess have a blog? So we're gonna cover that straight away. Jess, do you have a blog?
I do. I haven't written on my blog very much because I've been so busy, but it's at jessicabrowns.com.
Yes. Okay. So it's jessicabrowns.com, and Jess might also, Jess, if I can invite you, just post it in the Facebook group maybe afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. We've got Elizabeth said, a patient, fun teacher is such a treasure. And Andy said, we were looking at your slide of all the things you did when you were in Japan, and a lot of people were actually saying, oh my God, that's so cool. And Andy said, I wish I had done stuff like this when I lived in Japan. Jessica was saying this inspires her to do more activities with the locals. So there's a lot of people sort of saying, I wish I could do more with the locals, but people somehow feel like they have to hold back. What's that about?
I think there's a fear, isn't there? I know, I remember speaking to people saying, and they would say, oh, I don't want to bother them. Oh, they have to hang around while I speak slow Japanese. I feel awkward asking them about the language. You know, I think there's this feeling that they're just bothering people, but I spent a lot of time with lots of different people. It wasn't like I was hanging around with the same person all the time and, asking them language questions all the time. In fact, I don't know that I asked that many language questions. I think I just let it wash over me. I just did the activities. I just took it in. And most of the time we had enkais. And those people that live in Japan will know what an enkai is. It's a drinking party.
Oh, I've had one of those.
Right.
In my life, not a Japanese one.
The enkais are a very big cultural thing in Japan. Everything revolves around work, and after work you go to an enkai. And enkais have alcohol. And of course, I think those of you that drink alcohol know that when you've had a little bit of alcohol, it's much easier to speak a foreign language. You suddenly become very good at the foreign language, in fact. So when you are exposed to that kind of culture of going out and socializing a lot with a little bit of alcoholic lubrication, I think you pick up so much more language, and the fears about annoying somebody they kind of go away. But I think we overestimate how much we annoy people when we do ask them about language. Most of the time, they're happy to help you.
I agree. I think there's a lot of people in the chat saying, sounds great, except I don't drink. So I wonder if we can think of a non-alcoholic version of that. Now, I also drink, but I don't tend to drink up my courage.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some tricks that you could do. So you're right about thinking you're annoying people is something you're thinking. It's not what they are thinking.
Exactly. We have a very strong inner monologue happening. We're always analyzing what somebody else is thinking about us. And we have to overcome that and just go for it. If somebody's annoying you, they're going to tell you, or they're going to excuse themselves from speaking with you. But I think if you just ask questions, people will tell you the answers.
I think that's really well said, that we do have a very strong inner monologue and we have to overcome it. And that's something that we do for ourselves. It's one of the ways that I think language learning can help you grow as a person, because you've got to get over so many restrictions. So we've got various recommendations as well from the chat. People are saying coffee, meditation, bubble tea. Jessica's saying remembering people don't judge as much as we think they do. That is so true. Got lots of people saying bubble tea and just various kinds of tea. So if you're not a drinker of booze,
it's just really about getting in the social situation.
Now, Jess, more questions. What is the magic ingredient? Was that the alcohol?
The magic ingredient is games.
Oh, tell us more about that.
So I take a lot of children's games to my community. There is a game called Dobble that is amazing. It's picture cards, and you use the picture cards and they have to match. It's kind of like Snap, but there's about 5 or 6 games within this one game. And it just gives people, even complete beginners that turn up at our group, it gives them an opportunity to become part of the event. And by the end of it, they have some vocabulary purely by playing. And I mean, we don't use any English while we're there. We speak to them only in Japanese, these complete beginners. I just use the techniques that lady in the TEFL course used with me, my very first experience of Japanese. And I every single meeting that I have online and in person, I want that person to walk away with more confidence and at least one more word of vocabulary.
Yeah, because it's about
just one.
Setting realistic goals, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to switch your light on, because you're
getting
slowly
darker.
Becoming a night vision? Yeah.
Oh, yes, hang on a moment.
Okay.
see how this works.
Oh,
Is that too
wonderful.
quick?
Fantastic. No, it's great. It's really, really good. And okay, so a bit more feedback. Then we had a whole discussion about textbooks earlier in the chat with various people, Elfin, Andy. I think Elena is pro textbooks. So that some people are like, some people say, and the people who like textbooks like them for the structure, but no one here is slave to the textbook. A lot of people say they don't work too well, that they prefer hands-on interactive learning with teachers. Somebody saying it might depend on what kind of learner you are. And then a question that several, I think of the teachers in our audience asked was, how can you teach using body language and conversation when teaching online?
Okay, so online, we can use a lot of pictures as well, right? So you can draw pictures and things. A lot of repetition, getting people to repeat back. There has to be a lot of context work out and about in the street, showing people the physical objects, discussing, think about when you were a child, right? You didn't know your mother tongue when you were a baby. When you're born, you've been listening to it when you're in the womb, but you don't necessarily know what it means until you're in the situation where it's used. You are shown it in context, if you like. So I think that when I picked up Japanese, I picked it up because I saw it in action. And it's more about, for me it's experiential. It's hard to explain what I mean when I have to get out there and show you.
Yeah. Well, can you give it a demo? You can teach me whatever numbers I have forgotten. I have Ichni san. I've got those. She.
Hi.
So okay, I've got 4.
1, 2, 3, go.
Go. Okay.
Go. Roku. So roku, hasami, kami. Roku.
Okay.
これも6。6、7。7はね、7は私の7。7は難しいね。ちょっと待って。7は7です。はい。
7.
7。
Okay. 6。
6。7。
Mm-hmm.
でも、7の覚え方は、7。7です。7。わかりますか？英語、if you understand English, 7, then I hope that would help.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's very bright, isn't it? 8. 8. 8. Okay? Yeah. Whatever works for you, whatever helps you to remember.
Yeah.
So let's do them again.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Oh, 3. Okay. 4.
Yep.
Go.
Okay.
6.
Okay.
8 something.
Yeah, 8.
8.
Sorry, we forgot Nana.
Yeah. Oh, Nana. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
So all the nanas I can think of are angry. So okay.
Yeah.
Well, the chat is responding and people are saying, I love it. I get it. So I hope we've done spontaneous demonstration of online teaching through conversation and body language. I know we've only done numbers, but Lindria is saying it's like mnemonics with body language, and it does work. It does really work.
You remember when you were a child and you would learn head, shoulders, knees and toes, head, shoulders, knees and toes, right? You're a child, you don't know English, you don't know the parts of your body, but they teach you this song and suddenly, that's how you learn it.
We've got Daniel's asking, is this similar to total physical response? Sort of, not necessarily. Physical response is more command and reacting to a command, I think, but I don't know, because I'm not 100% teacher trained. When I say not 100%, more like 0%.
That's not something I've studied, I have to say. That wasn't part of my course.
So we might be wrong about that one. One thing I really, really like is the way that you said, if it's part of you, then it happens naturally. And you sort of talked about setting up the community and how you brought people together in Edinburgh. And this is it's brilliant, because this is picking up a theme that we've, at Women in Language, we pick up quite regularly, is community. So I wondered personally, and chat room, please, if you've got more questions for Jess, please type them in the chat room, because we've got 15 minutes, so we can probably get there. The question, how did you take your first steps, and how can someone set up a group easily?
For an in-person group in the community?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I went to a lot of Japanese lessons, and every time I went to a Japanese class, I would speak to the other people in the class and say, hey, let's meet for a study session halfway through the week, between our between our lessons. So I think we had our lessons on Monday nights, and we ended up meeting on a Wednesday night in the cafe. So if there's somebody else, if you go to a Japanese lesson, or if you go to a language lesson, I should say, and there are other people in that language lesson, then why not say to them, hey, fancy meeting at a cafe? And then just pick a time and a place, advertise it on Facebook, and people will come. If you build it, people will come. It's been quite crazy, actually, the amount of people who have found us and just showed up because they found us on Facebook. This actually happened with a lot of our teachers. We had some Japanese teachers come along who had come to Edinburgh to study English. So they were spending all day, every day learning English. And in the evening, they wanted a rest, their brains hurt, and they wanted to find some other Japanese speakers to chat with. So they actually came along to our conversation club in order to just rest their brains. So that was amazing. If you want to start a community, I would suggest choose a place, go there with some textbooks, pens and paper, games, and just sit and wait.
Don't underestimate the power of flyers. The power of flyers is not dead yet. That's something flyers, I noticed.
You've got flyers, you've got Eventbrite, you've got meetup.com, you've got Facebook,
Yeah. Melanie was asking, how much time does it take to organize it, like on a bigger scale? Maybe talk about what happened for you in terms of organizing this.
So for me, it was. Do you mean the local events or the online events?
Yeah, she just said a meeting, like starting a community. So I assume it's easier to get cracking on a Facebook group. So Melanie, I'm going to assume you mean offline, but it's like you say. So what did you do? You just pick a look. Oh, she says both. So What did you do? Just pick a location, sit down, pick a date, and then tell people the time?
Yeah, pretty much. That was exactly what I did. I just picked a location. And actually what happened was we started off in a pub, which was then too noisy. It's all trial and error. And then we went to a Starbucks, which ended up being too small because the group grew too big. Yeah. Then we moved somewhere else that was a kind of a burger bar, but it went out of business. And then we had a message from somebody who had found us online to say that he just started a Japanese arcade cafe in Edinburgh.
Ah.
And would we be interested in using that on one of his freer nights, you know, his more empty nights? And I said, well, we do Friday nights, so it has to be on a Friday night. And he agreed. So that's where we are now. And it's perfect because the whole decor is Japanese, and he sells Japanese snacks. He sells little ramen pots. You walk in there and it feels like you should be speaking Japanese. So it just works really well.
Amazing. Yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? You can start somewhere public and small. And I don't know, I've organized a Welsh meetup in Canterbury where like no one speaks Welsh and somehow 3 people turned up. So it really is a case of just put up a sign, pretend it's a thing, and it will magically become a thing.
It does.
Melanie, that's how I feel about it.
Exactly.
It's absolutely doable. So there we go. We're encouraging people. Yeah. And if you have, I don't know whether you were at Women in Language Camp in November. If you have access to it, we went into more detail there. So you might find some resources in the Facebook group, or later on, perhaps get some access to it. Anyway, one question remains. I think we've got a question for one more. Time for one more, and that was Jimmy Joe, who posted in Japanese characters and says he's studying for the N1, what is the N?
Ooh,
yeah,
that's the highest level
Ooh.
of the Japanese language proficiency test.
So they're asking, how would you use body language for connecting particles and other grammar that doesn't have a clear image? Abstracts.
So I think that just really comes down to the amount that you hear it, see it, and experience the sentences. I am not an expert in Japanese. I'll just put that out there. I am intermediate myself. I just love connecting people that want to speak Japanese. And I'm not N1 level. But then I'm not driven by the JLPT, the Japanese Language Proficiency Test. I'm driven by the desire to communicate. The JLPT is very much more about getting a job in Japan and being of a very high level to be able to use it within a working environment. And that's not my focus. My focus is to get people communicating and get confident, because there's so many people that are stopped from speaking purely because they are intimidated by the speaking element. So I think for N1 level, I think, you know, if you've got as far as N1 level, then you're probably, you know how to study. You've done a really good job up until now.
And if you want to teach, imagine somebody wanted to teach somebody else.
I think it's just example sentences. There's lots of example sentences and how you would use it.
Yeah, I mean, from teaching German, I know I often do this variations of the same sentence again and again and again. So it's like, if your wife wanted to go shopping, if your wife wanted to go shopping and buy a sock, if your wife wanted to go shopping and buy a sock that is really expensive, and then continuously go, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do?
Yeah.
So people then, you know, if that's what we're practicing, then get people to try and get them to quick fire their answers, because you're just going through the same structure again and again and again. And I found that quite effective. But that's my experience teaching German, not Japanese. But I think it might transfer.
Yeah, I can see how that could work. Definitely.
Yes. So Jamie Joe says it makes sense that once you get the other vocab, the rest just falls into place. And this is the focus, isn't it? It's communication.
Yeah. Communication. Just get out there and start using it. Don't be afraid. Just give it a go.
Okay, so we've got one more question. We can do a quick one. And well, by the way, La Lolalita Desu says, "Hey, it's me in Sweden. I love Nihongo Connection. Thank you, Jess."
Lola, that's Lola. Yay, she's one of my members.
Aww.
Lola's amazing. We've got 2 girls from Sweden, and they realize that they can meet up. They're a couple of hours apart, I think. Wow. So that's what is amazing to me, is that I have members I have members in Japan. People are tuning in from Japan to chat in Japanese with a person who's organized it in Scotland. That's just crazy. But they're teaching English, so therefore they feel like it's their job and they need to be speaking English the whole time. So yeah, I've got members in Japan. I've got members in Sweden who are going to meet up in real life. I've got a member in Israel who's been over to Scotland to meet with us. Lola actually came to our boot camp as well. We have a boot camp in November, which is really fun. What else? Who else have I got in the group? I've got people from Italy, Poland, Lithuania. Oh, it's so international. It's crazy. But we all communicate in Japanese. That's a default language for us.
There's somebody's asking, what is the boot camp like? So if you've got a minute, tell us about the boot camp. And once again, if you want to connect with Jess, are you in the Women in Language Facebook group?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So that's the first place. You can tag Jess in the Facebook group. You are Jessica Brown?
Yes, I am.
Jessica Brown. So do post in there, and there will be a thread. I think Lindsay's putting a thread up for every presentation, so you can share your thoughts and extra questions, because we're not going to get all of them. So Jess can answer your extra questions in the Facebook group, but we're going to, and it's jessbrowns.com.
JessicaBrowns.com. Yeah, Jessica Brown was already taken. Jessica Brown was already taken, so I had to Jessica Browns.
Jessica Browns. Okay, so we've got what's the bootcamp like, and after that we shall crack on, because you guys want to move on to Destiny's Talk. That's the next one. So tell us about bootcamp.
So the bootcamp is a retreat. It's 3 days in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, where we hire a huge house, and I pick up everyone in a minibus. It's only small. There's only about 15 people can come to it. But pick them up in a minibus from the local train station, take them to the boot camp, and from the minute they get on the minibus, it's Japanese only. And that's on Friday, and we speak Japanese. We have immersive, we have JLPT lessons, preparation lessons, and we have Japanese food. We had a Japanese chef come and teach Japanese cooking.
Nice.
We have conversation class. We have Japanese sweets. We pretend we're in Japan, but it's over 3 days in the middle of nowhere in Scotland.
Fantastic.
And then at the end of it, we drop them off back at the train station, and their brains go.
I'll talk to you after, because that's one of my plans for this year, is to make a German retreat in the UK. I already do them in Germany. I'll do them in the UK. So, but that's for after. Now, if you guys want to connect, if you want to connect with Jess, so do catch up with us in the Facebook group to follow on with conversations about Nihongo Connection and Japanese in Edinburgh and Japanese all around the world. Arigato, Jess.
Arigato.
And we're going to be off, and if you click complete and continue in the top right of your screen, you're going to start moving on. You'll be automatically moved on to the next lecture. So lots and lots of people saying thank you. Somebody's saying something in Japanese, which I still haven't learned in the last hour to read. Sorry about that. I'm sure it's arigato and lots of compliments, and lots of people saying thank you so much. You were amazing. Wonderful first speaker. Thank you so much, Jess. Bye, everyone.
Arigato.